be out there, but I don't have it. I don't know anybody that has it, and thus it is impossible. Because very, very difficult means you put all your effort into it, and it is doable, right? And that's a tricky thing, right? For some people, things may be very, very difficult, and for others, the same things may be impossible. And how can you distinguish that, right? Like, say I wanted to run, 3 minutes something mile. Is that very, very difficult or impossible? I'm not very fast. Never was. So I'm going to say impossible, right? Because no matter how much I train, I can't do that. But for some people, that may have better genes. That may just be very, very difficult. They were in shape a few decades ago. They're definitely not anymore on that. Also, are starting to flat, but they can theoretically get back there. And people who are much older can still run pretty fast, at least a mile. And so it takes into account knowing what you're capable of, right? Because for some people, maybe working 140 hours a week is basically impossible. They just cannot do it. They would grow depressed. They might as well kill themselves, blah, 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 right? But, on the other hand, saying that I can't do it because I don't have the genes for it, is that completely true as well? What if I were to take steroids and other performance-enhancing things? What if I were to make myself EPO or go to train at higher altitudes? Would that make a difference? I don't know, those are for longer distances. Is a mile considered long? Well, for a 100-mile dash sprinter it is. But I think there's all these questions, right? The reason I bring up the difference between impossible and very, very difficult is, while it's not absolutely clear-cut, I think it's an important distinction to make. Because if something's impossible, then it's really not fruitful putting your effort towards it, no matter how hard you try. If something's merely very, very, very difficult, your effort can't be rewarded. That brings me to an interesting point. Raising kids well. It's very, very difficult. Or is it impossible? Because most parents, we like to say, try their best. And some kids turn out to be serial killers, right? Nobody would ever want that. Did they do something wrong? Or is it just impossible? And from what I know about parenting, which isn't very much, unfortunately, the problem isn't how hard you try, it's whether you do it correctly. And it goes with the age-old saying of practice makes perfect. Because we all know nobody's perfect, right? So what is that supposed to mean? So let's modify that. Perfect practice makes perfect. What? You have to practice in the correct way. Otherwise, you're not going to improve. And you have to parent it in the correct way. Otherwise, your kid's not going to do well, right? A lot of parents, unfortunately, try really hard to give their kids all the things that they want. But I'm absolutely certain that's not the path to success. It may not be easy for them. They may be poor and a kid wants something that costs money. So they work really, really hard to get it. Again, that's not the correct way to success. And I would generalize in saying that kids would rather you spend time with them than spend time getting money for them. Right? Most people say there's a limit. Yeah, there's a limit if they're starving, etc., right? But going back, I think it's actually hard for many people to give up the fact that they're successful at work, they're good at it, and spend time with their kid, especially when they don't have much of a relationship. But your kids are there to spend time with you, right? Then you spend time getting money for them. This thing called work. I mean, what CEO is going to cancel meetings because, my daughter has this performance and I really want to be there for her? I don't know how they know of it. Maybe they exist. I think when you say what's hard, right, for parenting, many times parents say this is the harder one. They have to work hard. harder one is them giving up their position, their title at work, taking a job that's more relaxed, and spending more time with their kid. That's truly what's difficult for them, but probably a better chance towards success with their kid.